So YieldMax announced the Group 2 distributions today. So we're going to go over those. And I also made quite a few little trades today. I did buy some more CONY, Ulty, and Smcy. And I also sold another put on SPY. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So today we're going to go over the distributions, and I also want to point out some of the YieldMax funds that I did buy today to help bring down my real price per share. And I also sold a put on SPY, and I believe this time I'll get assigned. So if you appreciate this type of content, I'd appreciate it if you would hit that like button. But let's just go ahead and jump right on into that YieldMax Group 2 announcements. All right, so we're looking at the announcement sheet for the YieldMax Group 2. And this is for December the 17th with an X date of December the 18th and a payment date of December 19th. And we'll start right off here with ABNY with 31 cents. AIYY 27 cents, AMDY with 42 cents, AMSY 8 cents, APLTY 6 cents, BABO 8 cents, BRKC 13 cents, CONY will be 51 cents, and that's a 60% distribution rate. CRCO 22 cents, Crash 22 cents, CVNY 98 cents, and that's a 125% distribution rate. DIPS 68 cents, DISO 9 cents, DRE 43 cents, FBY with 7 cents, FIAT 40 cents, GDXY 18 cents, GMEY with 48 cents, GUI with 9 cents, HIYY 23 cents, HOOY with 42 cents, JPMO 7 cents, MARO 5 cents, MARNI 22 cents, MSFO 6 cents, MSTY with 38 cents, and that's a 61% distribution rate. NEFLY 4 cents, NVDY 11 cents, OARC 28 cents, PLTY 43 cents, PYPY 25 cents, RBLY 31 cents, RDYY 43 cents, SMCY 11 cents, Snowy with 10 cents, Tesla 42 cents, TSMY 6 cents, Winter 63 cents, and that's an 87% distribution rate. Zomo 4 cents, XYZY with 35 cents, YBIT with 28 cents, and YQQQ with 5 cents. And that wraps up all the ones for YieldMax distributions. And in this group, I have SMCY, PLTY, NVDY, MSTY, HOOY, CONY, and AMDY. So I'll be able to update the ones that I have on my spreadsheets, and I'll do that this weekend and find out where I'm currently setting with my real price per share. And I also did make some purchases, which we'll talk about in just a second. But let's just go ahead and finish out the other announcements that I have, and let's move over to RoundHill. And this is for RoundHill. It has an X date of 12/18 and a pay date of 12/19 for XDTE 20 cents, QDTE 20 cents, and RDTE for 21 cents. Now out of these, I only have QDTE, so I'll update this one as well. And now let's check out the one I have for Defiance. And this is for the Defiance funds, and it has an X date of 12/18 with a distribution payable date of 12/19. So we'll start right off with IWMY for 11 cents, QQQY for 13 cents, WDTE 18 cents, GLDY 12 cents, and USOY for 6 cents. Now out of these, I have WDTE, QQQY, and IWMY for the Defiance funds. So that wraps up all the announcement sheets that I've received. So now let's just go ahead and slide right over to the Webull chart, where I'm going to show you what I did buy today and an option trade that I did make today. All right, so we'll just start right off here with SMCY. And for SMCY, I did purchase some shares of this one. I ended up buying 25 more shares. And let me show you what I was looking at when I did buy it. So I'm going to turn off the moving averages and I'm going to turn on that Bollinger Band. And we'll just zoom right in here to today's candle. And you can see there's that drop. We did get down to the bottom of that Bollinger Band. And that RSI2 is under 10. It's sitting at 7.51. So I was able to jump and grab a few shares of SMCY. I got my shares at $8.39 per share for a total of 25 shares. Now let's look at my stock tracker sheet. Let's punch in to see what that's going to change my real price per share to. As I did buy SMCY and I bought it at a price of $8.39 and I purchased 25 shares. Now you can see that my current real price per share is $9.89. The market price is $8.35 and I was able to get them at $8.39. So that's a pretty good buy if you ask me. So let's just see what that $9.89 now changes to for my real price per share. And there you go. We dropped it down to $9.50, and that's a 4% drop on that real price per share. I'll take that. So instead of that $9.89, it's dropped down to $9.50. And that's a pretty good drop on my real price per share, if you ask me. Now, the other one I did buy was Ulty. And you can see Ulty did end up coming down. We came down. We got really close to the bottom of that Bollinger Band again. That RSI2 was almost breaking that 10, okay? Oh, I went ahead and I just put a buy order in and it eventually came down and triggered it. Now for this one, I ended up putting a buy order in at $37.50. I figured if that midpoint was at 38.41 and that lower part of that Bollinger Band was at 36.88, I figured if I can get it for 37.50, that would be a pretty good buy point. And it eventually did come down, trigger it, and that purchased me 10 shares at $37.50. Let's just go ahead and see what my new real price per share will be after making that purchase on Ulty. So as you can see, you just click it, got the drop down, click which one that you're looking for. I had a buy price of $37.50 and I purchased 10 shares. So as you can see, my real price per share was $41.83 and now my real price per share is $40.82. So bringing it on down, and that's a 2.4% drop on Ulty for my real price per share. I will take it. I want to take advantage of these days whenever we are dropping at the bottom of that Bollinger Band because I want to make sure that I'm able to move my real price per share down as much as possible off of that one buy position. And the other one that I did buy was CONY. And again, you can see CONY's midpoint was at about 45.15. The bottom of that Bollinger Band was at 41.81. So just like in Ulty, I went ahead and I just put a buy order out there and I set it for about $42.80. So that purchased it almost at the bottom of what the candle was for today because it did close at 42.72 and I bought them at 42.80. Not too bad at all. And as you can see, that RSI2, it just broke below that 10 as it's sitting at 9.97. So happy about that. That's just an extra 12 shares that I got for that. And that's an extra 12 shares that I'll earn that distribution on. So I'm okay with that as well. So that's the three that I did purchase today. And just like on Ulty and SMCY, let's just see what my new real price per share will be for CONY. Because I have been watching and looking for a buy point on CONY, so I was glad to actually be able to get that chance. And that buy price was $42.80, and I got 12 shares. my real price per share being $55.85, and I purchased them at $42.80, means my new real price per share will drop down to now $53.73. And that's a 3.7, almost 3.8% drop. A very nice buy, in my opinion. So I know it's difficult to buy on a down day, but for me, it's kind of like a store offering discount. I'll buy if they're going to give me a discount on it. And in this case, it actually gave me a discount, and it's going to pay me a distribution on top of that. I didn't think it was actually going to get down to the bottom of that Bollinger Band today. I figured I'd have to wait until after that X date before I was actually going to be able to purchase, but it did give me that buying opportunity and the chance to earn that distribution. And now let's take a look at SPY, because I did sell a put on SPY today, and we'll look to see what I actually picked, why I picked that strike, and will I get assigned or not. So first of all, I want to show you how I set it up. So let's go over to the 5-minute chart. All right, we're on that 5-minute chart, and I'm going to slide back just a little bit. As you can see, this would be yesterday's market open time, and this would be after hours of yesterday and the pre-market from today. So what I do, I'm going to draw my lines, right? I want to put this green line at the high point from yesterday's opening and the after hours here. And that high point was not right here of yesterday, right? It actually was during the after hours, and it was at roughly about 681.50. And I'm going to do the same thing for that low side. All right, so I just find that low point from this point all the way over to this point. And that low point is right here. So I just draw my line right there. So now I have the high and the low of the previous day, including the after and pre-market before the opening of the current day. So if I zoom in here, so the first of the day it was coming out, we were close to that upper end over here, right? And I thought, well, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to sell a put today. I figured it was probably going to come out, come down just a little bit, and then take back off, right? Bust through this 681, but it did not. And I almost missed it, right? Because it was so close to the top, I didn't think it was going to come all the way down to 674. From 681, I just didn't think it was going to happen. But I happened to just set a alarm. As you can see right here, I had that alarm set, and I set it at around that 675, that if it got down to that point to notify me, and sure enough, it was coming down. It triggered my notification, and it was actually starting to break below that 675, right? We were down in the 674 area. So knowing that this line here was the low of yesterday, I figured that since it was down below that line, there's a lot of buy-in pressure to help push it back up above that 675. So what I did is, since it was sitting at around this 674.50 to 674.30 area, I went ahead and I sold a put at 674 to expire today. And for selling that put at 674, I earned $150. And here you go. This is my order where I did sell that 674 SPY put to expire today. And that was a sell. So I did earn. And I set that premium that I was wanting at $1.51. And the reason I did $1.51 is just so that I get at least $1.50, right, after I pay out my fees and stuff. Even though Webull does not charge a whole lot in fees, it's actually quite cheap. Now that's $1.51 times 100 shares. And how many contracts? I only had the one contract. So that is $1.51 times 100. That's $151 in my pocket for one day. But you're thinking also, well, yeah, but it closed under your 674. So now you're having to buy those shares. And I respond by, yeah, I get to buy those shares, right? I'm excited because I'm hoping to see a bit of a Santa rally coming soon. And I feel that at 674 is a pretty good buy for SPY. Because if we look at that day chart, you can see that that midpoint of that Bollinger Band, it's setting at 677.65. And I now have my shares at 674. And yes, there is plenty of room at that Bollinger Band for it to come on down. And it still could, right? It could come all the way down to the bottom of this Bollinger Band at 657. And if it does, so be it, right? So be it. I will very most likely own those shares at 674 per share. But if this does start bottoming out and this thing takes back off, I'm hoping to see this thing go back up here to this high 680s and be able to sell a call at that point, because that would be some very good price appreciation. The difference of whatever it sold at minus what I paid for it, plus any premium that I would earn for selling that call. But since it did close under that 674, I will own those shares come tomorrow morning, and that will be 100 shares at 674. So I'm hoping and looking for this thing to turn back up and take off. If it wants to come down, that's fine too. I don't mind holding SPY. And why don't I mind holding them? Well, that's simple. Because on the 5-year chart, if we turn on those moving averages, and I'll turn off the Bollinger Band just to clean it up, you can see there is that moving average, right? That's a 200-day moving average, is that red line, and it goes up and to the right. So to me, that means overall this stock wants to move up and to the right. The candles are staying above that MA 200. But yes, it has plenty of room to come down, and it could, right? I could get it wrong and this thing can come on down. But the part that makes me not worry about it is the fact of the history. And the history says this thing moves up and to the right. And even on a 1-year chart, it's moving up and to the right, right? So I am not too worried about SPY at all. I am looking for some quick money, and that's the idea, is to own those shares at that 674, and this stock start moving back up, get above that 674, and start going on back up to the previous high of around this 680 area. And that alone would be a $6 move, even if it went to 680 at opening, and then I sell a call even at the 680. That's a $6 move. That's $600 in one day. Not too bad. Now, granted, it would have to close above that, and I would have to be exercised that call. But if that was the case, that would be a very nice price appreciation, and not even counting the premium. But the reason I don't mind owning an expensive ETF like this is simply because of the history of that ETF. I am not worried about this thing crashing to the ground like any other stock or something like that. That may be more speculative. It may pay higher premium, but you're paying for that risk. So I've earned $250, 260 I think it is, for the last couple of days. That's not too bad at all. And that's just in the premium. But what we'll do right here, just so that you can see, I'll go ahead and we will draw in our lines. So we'll be all set for tomorrow. And the only difference is if it does break past our line before market open, then we'll move that line to the top of that candle. And the same thing if it would happen to break below the low that we're seeing currently. If this thing came on down here, then we would need to move that line down to that bottom, right? Because this is the upper and the lower of yesterday's trade along with the after hours, right? So as you can see right here, we've got that upper side about right there, right at opening of today, right? Because that was the highest point it was at opening. And how about the low point? Well, it shows right there, 671.20 is the low point. So we'll just bring it right on down to that right there and drop it, right? So we got it sitting really close to that 671.20. and we've got that upper point. Now, the thing is, if this does open down here, I'm not going to be selling a call unless it's going to break through that upper part. And then I'm going to be able to set my call just above it. So if it's just peeking through this and it's hanging out right here, I may set a 681 or a 682 call. But if it's down in this area and just hanging out, I probably will not set a call. And since I already have the put, I won't have the extra money to actually sell another put. But if it did break down below this low point at opening, or whatever that new low point would be, then if I did have the money available, I would sell another put for sure. I wouldn't mind owning 200 shares of SPY, not at all. I'm fine with that 100%. But that's just me. That is not financial advice. Make sure you do your own due diligence before you get into anything like that. But I was excited to get assigned. I know that sounds weird, and I know a lot of people would probably freak out by getting assigned those shares. But think about it. I'm not going to really make the big money until I get assigned, because I'm looking for that price appreciation. And in order to get that price appreciation, I have to sell the call. Well, to sell the call, I have to own the shares. So I have to get assigned those shares in order to be able to sell that call. And the call is when I'm going to actually make that price appreciation on top of the premium. The put side is nice because I can just earn premium and it not take my capital. But if it is going to take my capital, then I'm looking for this to move back up where I can start earning and making that price appreciation on top of even more premium. On an ETF like SPY, I'm not worried at all. But do make sure that you do your own research and don't just follow me, as I am only showing what I'm doing. But it is pretty exciting, and I am very excited to own those shares because, again, like I said, I'm looking for a pop-up eventually coming up in SPY for the center rally. But again, that's not guaranteed at all, right? But that's my hope. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button and smash that like button. It would be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.